We don't like to let people know exactly what we're doing while it's going on. And for exactly the same reason why in a biology lab you don't want dirty test tubes. We're working with an ingredient.
Way of Will John.
The ingredient in this case is intention and clarity and all the rest of it, magical stuff. Well, you keep it clean. Afterwards, and here's a tricky thing here, because within the psychic and magical realms, time is not what we have on our clock. So future intentions can affect things that are happening in the present. Time sort of goes everywhere. It's non-local in space and time. That creates what the jargon in the field is a divergence effect. That if you have an experimental result and now you publish it, and a lot of people in the future are looking at it and saying, that's stupid, that can't work. Well, that might be able to affect what was happening when the experiment was underway. So do you completely reveal everything and you give all your data and everything at that point? Well, it's a question, because you're now working against a potentially very large number of people in the future who might be able to influence something in the past. So it's not that the past can be changed, as best as we can tell. What happens, at least experimentally, we see this happen sometimes, that what is unfolding in the present is influenced both by what was happening in the past. That's like thinking of it as a psychokinetic effect pushing forward. But it's also affected by something in the past, these influences, in the future, influences that are affecting what is happening now. So that it's like a constantly moving in both directions, this influence. I think that's one of the reasons why when we do studies on various kinds of psychic effects, that the results are not both trivial to get, that it's non-trivial, and why it's very difficult to repeat. Because you do something, get amazing results, and then nobody can repeat it again. Why? Because you have all these people who are now thinking, that's stupid, that can't work. Because they saw that, and now when you do your experiment now, say, well, it's not working anymore. Well, why not? So, yeah, I have much more sympathy and understanding for the traditional sorcery techniques, which are done in caves or in a closet somewhere, and then you don't tell anybody anything. Mm-hmm. So that's one piece. The other piece is what you just mentioned, which is if you have 1 million people all wanting to win the lottery, well, that's not going to happen. You're pushing against all kinds of things. Well, if somebody has a stronger push, will they do a little bit better? Yes, but it's still all probabilistic. Mm-hmm. So people ask me all the time, how can I win the $1 billion lottery? Mm-hmm. Well, you can use magical techniques and probably improve your odds by a factor of 10, which is amazing. But that still means it's like 100 million to 1, right? You're not going to get down to 1 to 1.
Yeah.
So the probability of something is a very important key to whether or not something happens.
But the time thing, if I may, is otherworldly though, because what you're saying essentially is that I could also, and I feel like this is the first place I ever saw it, is go take a test, or I could have a test coming. I could say, I'm not going to study for that test. What I'm going to do, as soon as the test is done, I'm going to take 6 weeks and I'm going to learn everything that could possibly be done about this subject. And would it then be possible to pass that test in any way, or would it just simply be that I would do better on that test than I would if I then, for the next 6 weeks after I've taken it, studied? Like, would that really be the case? Or is it possible to say, next year I'll learn French and then walk up to somebody right now and start speaking French?
Well, that experiment has been done. That okay. Is an experiment. So 𝗪𝗛𝗡 is a retired psychologist from Cornell University, and he came up with something he called an implicit precognition test, one of which is exactly what you just described. You take a test, and then later you study the right answers. And so you then can compare, well, how would you have done if you didn't study it in the future? Well, people do better under the conditions that you're saying. If you study really hard after the test, that seems to ripple backwards in time and improve your answers in the present, which is what, like any form of precognition, is suggesting that somehow something in the future is rippling backwards. And so it's true in that case. It's true in lots of different ways of seeing the same phenomenon, that the present is influenced both by the past and the future. Our experience says it's influenced more by the past, but if it's influenced at all, like anything other than zero, by the future, that's still a factor.
Unbelievable.